Just over a week until the Arnold Strongman Classic, we have one of the strongest lineups of athletes we've ever seen in the sport.
So this has to be one of the most anticipated competitions I can remember at all in Strongman. Obviously Thor coming back is a major part of that, but there's so many big players in this competition.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, the tickets sold out ages ago, which shows how, excited the strength fans are for this show. I mean, you have the return of Thor. You also have the return of Martins Lissis. You have Tom Stoltman, a two-time winner of World's Strongest Man. You've got the current world and Arnold Strongman champion Mitch Hooper. Novikov's in there, former World's Strongest Man. A man that's won multiple Giants live shows in recent years, Evan Singleton. You got the guy that came third in Bobby Thompson. And Mateusz Kiliashkovsky, a man that's been on the podium at the Arnold's and World's Strongest Man so many times, unable to get the very, very top spot. We had the battle of Bryan and Zydrunas for many, many years, both dominating at the Arnold's and at World's Strongest Man. And you had a couple of guys that could come into that battle, but now we've never had so much talent in depth. And we're going to go through the events and the athletes and really explain why it's such a hard competition to predict a winner, why one mistake could cost someone, look at each individual event and kind of go through the strengths and weaknesses. And, we won't maybe do a prediction, but we'll give you a good idea of who we think will be in that top half of the show.
So event number 1 is the elephant bar deadlift for max. Each athlete gets to choose 3 weights, and the rules are they're not allowed to wear a suit or briefs, and they are not allowed to use figure of 8 straps, but regular straps are fine. Now we have the world record holder in this event returning. I think it's 476 kilos, somewhere around that, Thor Bjornsson.
Yeah, and there's a few interesting elements when it comes to the elephant bar deadlift. If you look at a lot of strongman competitions, the numbers are set that the athletes have to lift. Whereas at the Arnold's, the athletes get to pick their numbers. More like a powerlifting competition, you get to pick 3 different attempts. That is where experience can help.
Yeah.
We saw last year with Pavlo Nekonechny, an amazing deadlifter. Probably, something wasn't quite right. He had a bit of an issue with his knee kind of coming over. And rather than warm-ups not feeling right and changing the number, he just kind of stuck to his guns. Whereas a more experienced athlete will think, okay, I just need to get a lift on the board. Yeah. Understand that second attempt, you've got to be kind of thinking about points if things don't go right. And then that third attempt thinking, okay, this is where is it worth taking the risk or do I play it safe? And tactics come into this majorly. We may see that happen this year. Athletes need to be looking at this event as a strong foundation for the rest of the competition. If they can get good points in the deadlift, it allows them to relax a little into the show. If you kind of start off and deadlift could be a good event, but it goes badly, you make a mistake, that plays on your mind. So it's important to get good points on this one. World records have been spoken about. Thor's looked very, very strong in training. His last training session, he did 400 kilos for 2 sets of 3. Yeah. Looks very, very strong. Bobby Thompson's looking tremendous on this event in training. Mitch Hooper's coming good. Martins Lissis has looked really good in training. Tom Stoltman's deadlift is very, very dangerous. So we have some big deadlifters, and I think we'll see bigger numbers than we saw last year.
Agreed, because I know they're not allowed the briefs, which they were allowed last year, but also this wasn't the first event last year. And I think having Thor there is going to push them all. And Martins as well.
Let's not just kind of talk about Thor. Martins coming back is big for this competition. Yeah. Let's think of it like this. Mitch Hooper is the current champion. Martins
is the linear champion,
as is Thor. Yeah. Neither of them have ever lost since they won at the Arnold. So it's going to be a very, very interesting competition. And, the deadlift is just going to kind of pave the way for the rest of the show, I think.
Who do you see winning the deadlift?
So I think you have to say Thor is the favourite for the deadlift. When you look at the training videos, when you look at the history, when we look at just how strong he's got as well. Yeah. I mean, if you're following the athletes are looking good, but no one compares right now to the numbers that Thor is lifting and the way he's lifting them. Yeah. On top of that, with him being the record holder, he has to be the favourite for this event. He's got experience in the competition. So for me, Thor is going to be, I'd say, the clear favourite on this one. Okay. The big thing here is who comes second and third.
So day one, event number 2 is going to be the frame carry, and we've seen this event many times before at the Arnold's. It's 400 kilos without straps up the ramp. Now, last year, not many people finished. I think it was
3.
just, yes, there you go. So Kevin Mateusz and Mitch Hooper, a lot more, I feel, will finish this year. It's not the final event. And also, we've got the likes of Maxime, Martins and Thor, who've all finished this event before.
And Evan Singleton.
And Evan, who's just
Evan,
really
very
good
good at this type of event. Yeah, I think we could see the most finishers ever
I think
on
so.
this event. It's going to be extremely important, I think, for the athletes to finish this.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking to win the competition. We have the world record holder in Mateusz Kieliszkowski. And I think it's fair to say he's the favourite.
He's
the favourite. He's won this event at the Arnold's a number of times. He's got experience with it. He is rapidly fast, and he's just backed it up time and time again. So I think he will do very well. Maxime is someone to look out for on this event. I don't feel Maxime is a contender for the title, but he could be a big problem to people and potentially even help someone like Kieliszkowski, who will lose points on the deadlift. Maybe just get in between the other big names. Thor has finished this before. Mitch Hooper has finished this before. Martins has finished this before. So a lot of athletes there that are capable of finishing.
Could be very costly for Alexi and Tom if they don't finish. Neither have before. Now, the last time Alexi did it, he beat Tom, but Tom looks to be improving massively in his training.
I've been following Tom's training. Obviously, we chatted a couple of months ago, and he's looking great. I've got to say, he's looking great. And Tom is coming to the Arnold's to shut doubters up. You know, he hasn't performed as well in, the Arnold's and some other big shows. Obviously amazing at World's Strongest Man, but people have said, if you want to go down as one of the greats, I've said this myself to him, if he wants to be one of the greats, you need to be an athlete that can win everything. And he knows that as well. You talk to him, he wants to be an athlete that wins everything. He's been training very, very hard for this. I've been impressed with the improvement that we've seen in training. If that training can transition to competition, I can see Tom finishing this.
Yeah. So straight from one grip event, kind of into another. I know it's different because they're probably going to hook grip, but the first event of day 2 is the Dinny Stone walk for distance. Now, the rules here are they are allowed one drop halfway through, but what we tend to see with these types of stone walks, once someone goes down, they're not getting much distance after that. Eddie Williams being a very bizarre exception.
That wasn't
the nickel stones.
The nickel stones are much lighter, to be honest. So I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of distance after that initial drop. But it is an opportunity to kind of just push a little bit further. Interesting to see this done after the frame carry. We do sometimes see athletes lose calluses on frame. If that happens, it's going to be it's a painful event anyway.
It's going to be awful if they've torn their hands.
This is the one event, I love the Dinny Stones. Obviously, I've been up to Scotland, used the originals. I've used the replicas as well for timed holds. It's a nasty event.
It's really painful.
I don't know that it's the best event for this type of competition.
Very technical.
There's technique to it, yeah, definitely, and an understanding of how the stones move. So even if you've been training on the pins with weights, they don't feel the same as the stones do. So the athletes that have a bit of experience on the stones, again, it is an advantage. And I remember watching a number of the athletes at the Rogue take part in the hold the day after the competition, and I think guys like Evan, who was very, very good at that, this could be a good event for him. Mitch has proven he can do well on these, but only when he has to.
He hates it. He won a similar, the Arnold's UK 2 years ago, they did a heavy stone walk for distance, and he won that, didn't he?
He did. I know from a very trusted source that Kieliszkowski is looking exceptional on this event, which, being as good as he is at the frame and moving with weight, you'd expect. Martins as well, phenomenal grip, very good at farmer's walk. I think he'll be good too. And again, I've seen Tom Stoltman training these. He's looked really, really good. Very hard to pick a winner on this one.
Do you think that Thor's massive hands are going to be a hindrance here?
I think potentially they could cost him a little bit. Having big hands with those small rings is not the most ideal thing in the world. No. And I wouldn't be as confident on Thor on this as I am on the deadlift. I think he could do very well. He's a very, very tough man. He knows how to kind of pick up points in competition. but I don't expect him to win this one.
No, and Maxime will also be an interesting one here as well.
Maxime, we know Maxime's grip strength is good enough. It's then controlling the implements.
Yeah.
How do you walk with them? Some athletes will try and go too fast. The stones will kind of pull away from them. It's an interesting one. You've got to get the combination of how long's your grip going to hold out for, and how slow do you go? You can't go too slow because the grip will eventually go, but you can't go too fast because then suddenly they're pulling you all over the place. Having a pickup with these the day before or in the morning is going to be vital. You want to just understand the balance, understand the movement. Once you've got that, they're all very competitive athletes. Do you know, I think if the deadlift goes well for Evan, this could be an amazing competition for him.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I think he could do amazing on the frame, and then Evan, when he's confident, is an absolute beast.
He is, yeah.
So if he's had a good first two events, I could see him doing amazing on this. I think the likes of Martins, Mitch, they pick up points. The big questions are Hafthor and Tom.
Yeah.
Hafthor and Tom could be very good. They may drop points.
What about Bobby?
Bobby's getting better, but this is a weaker event for Bobby. The frame and this, he's never finished the frame before. We have to be realistic about the approach. The goal for Bobby is improve on what he's done on the frame before and go as far as he can on these. You know, we're realistic. His deadlift's looking amazing. He's actually very good at the stone, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this for me and Bobby is about him doing as well as possible. I don't expect Bobby to beat the top guys on this, but if he can get some points and squeeze into that mid-table area, I think we'd be very happy.
So after the Dinny stone carry, they're going to be doing the Apollon's wheel, which is a 400-pound axle lift for reps. And they've got about 2 minutes, so it's a really decent
2 minute time limit. I think it's very important for athletes to use that time limit.
Yes.
Pace yourself. Do not try and kind of rush through this. The hard thing with an axle that's this heavy is cleaning it to the shoulders. Now, one clean isn't such an issue for this level, but when you start cleaning it twice or three times and you start to make mistakes, suddenly your energy levels can drain rapidly. So it's important to be as clean and as effective as possible on the first phase. A lot of these guys that are big log lifters tend to struggle on an axle, weirdly, because the clean is very different. You can't just roll it up your body like you can on the log. Even Bobby, where he's been making progress, but he would much rather it be a log than an axle. I think the more technical lifters, someone like Alexei Novikov, who's pretty good on axle, Martins, Mitch Hooper, and we've seen Tom's improvement on axle. They would actually be my favourites on this one. They're fitter, they have that ability to kind of keep going, and I think as long as they are efficient in the clean, they'll be able to get a good couple of reps. I think 4 reps probably wins, maybe 5. I certainly don't think we'll see more than 5.
No.
I think it's very, very important for athletes to get at least one or two. And this is an event where Thor hasn't looked so good in training. He's been very open and honest. Obviously, he's got that pec tear that he's coming back from. He has done the axle before and done very well at it in competition, but you can clearly see he's not back to that 100% on this event yet. He will really need to make sure he gets at least 1. Preferably, he'll want 2 reps. Yeah. For me, Mitch Hooper's looking very, very good on this one. I think Martins does very well. I think Tom Strongman does very well.
And I know it's different to an axle, but Oscar, he actually won the dumbbell on the Giants live show last year.
Actually, I think this is probably his best event in the competition. He's very explosive. I haven't seen too much of him on an axle before, but his log is decent in terms of some of the results that he's had. And watching him on the dumbbell last year in Cardiff, he was very, very explosive. So potentially a good event for Oscar as well.
So the final event of the competition is so brutal. It's the Stones of Strength Challenge, where the athletes are going to have to press a 300-pound stone overhead for 1 rep. Then they have a 365-pound stone over the hitching post for 1 rep. And then finally they have the 410-pound stone to shoulder for reps. 2.5 minutes they've got to complete this. It's going to suck.
They're going to need that 2.5 minutes. This is a brutal way to finish a competition. To get to that last stone and get that stone to your shoulder is going to be a monumental feat of strength in itself. They have often done just the stone to shoulder, and athletes have failed to be able to do that for 1 rep. I feel 1 rep is going to be huge points. It's going to come down to who wants it the most, who's battling for title, and I think everyone's money would be on Kiliashkovsky on this event.
Yeah, and I know when it comes to Atlas stones, Tom Stockman is obviously, and Thor, to be fair.
Thor is an amazing Atlas stone lifter. He didn't come close to beating Kiliashkovsky a few years ago when Thor was at his best. I cannot see anyone beating Kiliashkovsky on this event.
I can see Martins giving him a very good battle.
Martins has done well on this before. Last time he was second against Kiliashkovsky on this event, he managed 2 reps to the shoulder. Kiliashkovsky did 5. That's not close. It's close in terms of, he's the closest competitor. But Thor only did 1.
Yeah, if it's 11 points to Mateusz and 10 to Martins,
and that's what Martins,
it's close, isn't it? In that respect,
It's going to be, predictions go out the window. I mean, 2 years ago, Bobby Thompson came 3rd on this event.
Yeah.
One of the few athletes to get it to his shoulder.
And you would never put him
He's
in
not
that
a great
battle,
Atlas stone
exactly,
lifter. But
exactly.
with the more kind of rigid shapes to them, somewhere where you can get a bit of purchase on your hands, it's important to get that stone figured out.
Yeah.
It's completely different to an Atlas stone. You need to kind of figure out where your hands go. You need good grip strength, strong hands, and then the ability to kind of figure out the way the stone will roll on your body. Martins has got that experience where he's been doing the strength unknown, and he's been training with the people that lift the stones like 300 kilo stones to their shoulder,
crazy.
Which is just mental, different shaped stone. But again, I think the big names are going to be the ones that you look out for, because it's going to come down to all the other events. This is just nasty. But there's big money on the line, there's the title on the line, so the guys that are battling for those top 3, pride, absolutely. I mean, as a fan, it's going to be an amazing way to finish and watch the show. As an athlete, it's going to be a very, very nerve-wracking wait backstage to go out and do these stones. Because you're going to be watching every person, you're going to try and be picking up tips, but everyone that does well, it puts more and more pressure on the next guy. So I think you'll see half the field not even get 1 rep to the shoulder. I genuinely believe that. I think, those top guys will come out.
And they're not allowed to use tacky for this event. We should point out tacky towel they're allowed to use.
And that doesn't...
It's just a slightly sticky towel,
makes a little bit of difference. It'll help on like the press, just having your hands secure. But, sticky or not, just getting that stone to the shoulder is going to be the tricky option. And there's athletes we haven't even spoke about in this lineup. I mean, Thomas Evans, he was 5th last year at the Arnold. Very, very impressed with this guy, and I think he will do very well. I think the guy that comes last at the Arnolds could perform very well, but you're just up against such a stacked field. One mistake could cost someone. One amazing performance somewhere could kind of help someone. It's fun. It's a fun competition to be building up to. I have never looked at a lineup and found it this hard to go and pick a winner.
No.
I think if I had to put money on it, my head says either Martins Lissis or Mitch Hooper. The reason being, when you look at the 5 events, I can see them both picking up big points on every single event. I don't see a weakness, whereas I think everyone else potentially has a weakness. The one question mark, I mean, and this is a guy that I think could potentially win or potentially come 5th or 6th, is Tom Stockman.
Yes, agreed.
If his grip has improved as much as it looks like it has in training, Tom has a very good chance of winning this competition.
Agreed.
He's very good at the deadlift now. His overhead on the axle is probably his best overhead. Like I said, and the way he's looked in terms of frame carry and Dinnie stones, he looks better than ever. We shall see. He's a huge human being and, still improving. I'm excited for it. I really am. The return of Thor, the return of Martins Lissis, the current champion, Mitch Hooper, 5 world's strongest men in this lineup. It's crazy.
So the competition is going to be streamed for free on the Rogue Fitness YouTube channel, so make sure you catch it. It starts next Friday. I'm very excited, Lozzie. And of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments below and your predictions. Hopefully you can come up with something more finite than us.